Today, our guest is the Executive Director of Youth Club Public Union, Zaur Akbar. Welcome to our studio. Thank you. Today, we'll discuss youth participation in political activities. Parliamentary elections are coming. What can you say about youth participation in elections? How many youth candidates are there? I think there is a stagnation before the elections in the country. The youth participation is very low. You know that it's dependent on the current situation in the country. There are restrictions for active youth participation in elections. It is connected with the electoral code and I think with the amendments made to Azerbaijan's constitution. In general, I think that the youth participation in current elections is not sufficient. The people between 18 and 35 years of age amount to 30% of total population of Azerbaijan. And what percent of parliamentarians are youth representatives? I think the number of youth parliamentarians is very low after 2005. There are problems in progress of youth representatives in all layers of society, including both the oppositional structures and the governmental agencies. I think these problems should be removed. What's the percent of youth representatives in decision-making agencies, including executive structures? How many young deputy ministers or young executive heads are there? You know, there are youth representatives in state agencies, for example, in prosecutor offices or in judicial system. But there's a discrimination there because the youth close to the government, to the authorities, are advanced to higher positions, but the oppositional youth, dissident youth, are isolated. In which specialties are the youth most interested? For example, in some countries, military aviation is much more preferred, or technical sciences, or microbiology is much more interesting. You know, it's connected with the quality of education in the country, level of education, and we are all aware of the education quality in Azerbaijan. For example, I entered university in 2001, and since that time, I see that the youth prefer the spheres of law, medicine much more. They choose this first because they see what spheres are improving. Why do they prefer law? Because you know that nowadays the IT sphere is much more developed and the salary in IT sphere or bank sphere exceeds 1,000 manats, but I think the salaries in the law systems is lower. No, I don't think so, because the salaries in law systems, for example, in prosecutors' offices or in police agencies, the salaries are higher. But it's kind of the fact that our youth prefer aristocracy, fame. But the salaries in police agencies, for example, doesn't exceed 800 manats, or the salary in prosecutors' offices don't exceed 1,000 minutes. I absolutely agree with you. You know, the youth working in a prosecutor's office or police agencies, I think they have relatives, some relatives working in these spheres who encourage them to choose these spheres. There is just such a stereotype in Azerbaijan that the persons working in law sphere are much more respected. It's just a stereotype, and I think that the youth working in IT sphere, information technology sphere, have much more opportunities to make achievements. And now about the youth participation in political parties. You are also a member of political party. What's the amount of youth represented in executive bodies of political parties, both oppositional and ruling parties? I think the progress of youth in both oppositional and ruling parties are impeded. I think there is a jealous approach to the youth, both in oppositional ruling parties and also in NGO sphere, civil society sphere. We have always witnessed them, and now are witnessing too. You are familiar with the list of parliamentarian candidates nominated by both oppositional Azerbaycan Bloc and New Azerbaijan Party, YAP. Now, what's the number of youth candidates in both parties, and which party prefers to use much more? The number of youth candidates in Azerbaycan Bloc is much more than that of New Azerbaijan Party. Yes, the number of youth candidates doesn't exceed the 3% of total candidates of Azerbaycan Bloc, but it's still much more than that of New Azerbaijan Party, because all the candidates of the New Azerbaijan Party are the same old candidates, and there is no change. The international organizations are making reports about Azerbaijan, full of remarks about the level of democracy, freedom of election, human rights situation. Why the youth are not active in the human rights field, in this field? A very good question, I think. You know, the youth people are not active in social-political activities because they don't want to build a career in this field, and this field doesn't encourage them. And also our fight is very difficult, and they see these difficulties and refrain from entering this field. The government of Iran, a totalitarian republic, is afraid of their student movement. This country has a very strong student movement, youth movement. Why there is not a strong youth movement, student movement in Azerbaijan?
Tələbə hərəkatından, gənclər hərəkatından çox çəkinir və etiraf edir ki, bu çox güclü bir hərəkatdır. Bütün dünya ictimaiyyəti bunu etiraf edir. Azərbaycanda gənclər hərəkatı niyə belə gücə malik deyil? Səbəbi nədir?
Within the past 2.5 years, the youth with Western values did a lot of works in the country. They held alternative actions, and this activity was resulted in the imprisonment of 2 youth bloggers, Emin Milan and Hadzadeh. But the imprisonment of youth bloggers didn't awaken us. Even the number of youth activists increased. Are you a member of the Defense Committee for Adnan and Emin's rights? I don't mean only your organization, I mean all the youth organizations. Of course, when Adnan and Emin were in imprisonment, I was one of the founders of the defense movement for their rights. We participated in all the trials of Adnan and Emin. We did our best to support them. It is because our duty as a citizen. Who is the Azerbaijan youth from the point of view of ideological point of view? Is he a communist, a religious follower, an idealist, or materialist? It's difficult for me to answer this question because there is an ideological empty in Azerbaijan. And every organization, every association wants to form a new ideology and draw the youth to itself. But I think there is no need to seek a new ideology, because just we should follow the ideological line founded by the Rasulzadeh. What are the ideological priorities of today's youth organizations? Do they have a Western, nationalist, religious, or communist ideologies? It's mixed. Most of the youth prefer Western liberal democratic values, but there are also some secret organizations which I don't know that are financed by Iran or Arabic countries. At what age are the Azerbaijan youth are able to become independent from their family? For example, you have an organization and you have some experience. If I say that it's the mature age, 18 years of age, I would be wrong, because the Azerbaijan youth have also not only education problem, but also they have financial problems. They are financial dependent on their families. For example, I am 26 years old. I am somewhat independent from the family, but I'm not fully independent, because we have Eastern mentality. We are connected with our families. Do you mean family connection or social connection? Your financial needs? I think both, because the Azerbaijan youth are dependent on their families until finishing their education and finding a new job, namely a financial dependence. Yes, you're right. And now about the youth attitude to the labor. Do the Azerbaijan youth prefer the intellectual or physical labor? The Azerbaijan youth are very diligent and hardworking. The Azerbaijan students studying in foreign universities are not lagging behind the English-speaking or American-speaking English-speaking students. What is the number of students abroad? I don't know the exact number, but there are hundreds of them. I know. But they are lazy in Azerbaijan because the laws are not abided by in Azerbaijan. But they used to say that the laws are followed in the foreign countries and they are adapted to this system. Thank you for coming to our studio. Today our guest was the executive director of Youth Club, Zaur Akbar.